is Dan. I am a trainer here at Motility Software. And today we are going to be looking at the new custom tab that we've added to the CRM module. So let's go ahead and get started. We're just going to go ahead and select CRM sales quoting. And to kind of understand and to really get the full functionality out of this custom tab, you kind of have to understand our original customization tab. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and select one of our customers that we have saved in our CRM system. So I'll go ahead and select myself, Daniel Dankebring here. All right. So as I was saying, it's kind of important to understand how the customization tab works before we move on and cover the new custom tab. So what we have here is the customization tab. And this basically allows you to create a custom form, and you're able to name your column. And there's a couple things that are going to be unique to this tab. The first thing is, if you're ever missing a field on one of your existing tabs, one of your, from AP info or AR info, or something on lead info that you really want to track in the system, but unfortunately there's not really a field that matches up with that information that you're trying to record, you can use the customization tab. So you can really add anything you want to that customization tab. So let's go back to that. So I can name these columns whatever I want them to be. And then I also have the option to either have this be a free form field where I'm able to type in an answer, for example, for county, for example, or employer, I could type in something manually here. So for myself, if I wanted to record my employer, I could say Motility Software in this field. So you do have free form fields where you're able to type into the field directly, but you also have the ability to make it a field where you have to make a selection off of a drop down here. So typically how I've seen a lot of dealers use this customization tab is sometimes they will create kind of like a script that they want their salesperson to run through. So, did you give them a tour of our dealership? Did you get their cell phone information? Did you get a valid email address from that person? Did you give them a brochure? So on and so forth. So you can't force these to be a yes, no, if you want to get specific answers on these and you want to keep these uniform. So that's kind of how our existing customization tab works. And to set up this customization tab, it's going to be under Edit, and then it's going to be under Customization. Edit customization, sorry. So all of the information that we're looking at on this setup screen is going to tie into this customization tab. So here you see my first line, which is give them tour. It's just going to pull whatever name I enter in this column. And if I want to have it where I am forcing set responses in that field, I can go ahead and enter for each option that I want to add. I can type it in, and then I can add a comma to add another option to that drop-down list. So I have yes, comma, no. So I have yes and no as my only two options on those drop-downs. But for example, for customer type, you see I have individual, business, or government customer. So I have three options on that one. So you can add as many as you'd like. You just need to enter a comma in there to separate your values. Now, for the ones that you want to be kind of free form and you're able to type in whatever response you want, it just needs to be any in brackets, like what we see for employer and county, which I was showing you there earlier. And anytime you want to add a line to your customization tab, it's going to be pretty similar to what you've seen across the system, where anytime you see an asterisk, if you click on that line, it's going to allow you to generate a new line. So for example, if I wanted, let's see, what would be a good option here? I can say, we'll say like international, or let's say, like a preferred customer? Are we going to mark this person as a preferred customer where we have maybe some kind of savings plan or some kind of point system that we want to include this user on? So I can do that. I can choose any, or I can, pre-populate my responses. I'll go ahead and leave this one as any. And then the final thing I need to select is my sort order. So if I want this one to be the last one on my list here, I'll just go ahead and make it 30. So now I can hit OK. And it won't refresh automatically, but if I go to another customer here, you'll see it'll populate, and then I can go back to my original customer, and it will update now. So that's the customization tab, the original customization tab. But really the focus of today's session is our new custom tab. And the way this is going to work, and kind of the reasoning behind this tab, is it kind of combines the best of both worlds. So it combines the ability to pull your custom fields that you have available on your customization tab, but it will also allow you to pull existing fields that exist on your other tabs. So for example, I could pull billing account number, or on my AR info, I could pull social security number, or bank MICR number, or something along those lines. Basically, my point is you can take any of these fields that already exist on any of these other tabs alongside your custom tabs or your custom fields that you've created on your customization tab. So let's kind of take a look at how that works. And up at the top, if I go to Edit and I go to Add Modify Custom Screen, this is kind of the equivalent of the setup screen for these custom tabs, whereas customization, we're looking at edit customizations. For your custom tabs, it's going to be Add Modify Custom Screen. So up at the top, it's going to list all of the ones that you've created so far. I'm going to go ahead and select my customer information listing. So each one of these you create is actually going to be a specific tab. And on the security end of things in the software, you're actually, anytime you create a custom tab from this screen, it's going to actually create a new permission. So again, this is going to be permission based like all of your other tabs. So you can pick and choose who's actually going to be able to see this tab. It won't be across the board or anything like that. You can make it across the board, but you can also limit it to who you want to be able to see this information. So once we have one selected, we can go ahead and start editing our information. And to create a new option on our preset list, you'll just hit this new button below, or you can hit the copy button if it's going to be a variation of one that already exists, and you're just going to copy the information out of that one. But let's go ahead and look at this one, and we'll add some information to this one. So exactly like what I'm saying, and I'm going to go ahead and exit real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. So the one we're looking at right now is customer information listing. So I don't have too much on it right now. I only have lead type. I have first name and last name in there as well. So lead type is just how we got this customer into our front doors. So I'm going to say this one is a walk-up, and I'm going to save. But like I was pointing out before, these are fields that already exist in the software. So I have lead type, first name, and last name. So first name, last name for my header, and then lead type, which is pulling over from our lead info tab over here. So here we have lead type. Well, let's go ahead and jump back into our setup screen, which again is just edit, and then it's going to be add modify custom screen. So on this customer information listing, you can kind of see how it's set up now. So lead type is my first option. What's going to be unique to this one is you actually need to designate the amount of columns and rows that you want to be available on this tab. So up at the top, you can control your limits. So right now I can add up to 4 columns and up to 10 rows. And then on each field itself is where I'm able to control where it lands on this grid. So for example, lead type is column 1, row 1. First name is column 1, row 2. and last name is column 1, row 3. Now, let's go ahead and add a few more fields to this. So I have this one set up as a customer information listing. And again, that's just an example. You can really make these whatever you want them to be. So let's go ahead and add some more customer information listing that I might want. So underneath field is where you're actually going to be able to pull your information that already exists in the software. So let's say I want to add address, and that's going to be under I believe it's named something else, but let's see what other information that we can add in here. I could do okay, I apologize. That wasn't a good option. I believe we've omitted that one since your address information is always going to be at the top of your screen. But let's go ahead and add some contact information for him. So instead of address, we'll do phone numbers. So we'll do work phone number, and we'll put that on column 2, and we'll make that row number 1 on column 2. And let's see what other fields that we can add. We should have one for cell phone, so we'll go ahead and add that. And I'll make that column 2, row 2. And then we can also add his home phone number if we want as well. And we can make that column 2, row 3. So that's how you're able to select your fields that already exist. Now let's go ahead and add a custom field to this as well. So rather than selecting an option on the field column, we're going to select the custom field column. So if you open this up, this should look pretty familiar. This is actually referencing all the fields that we have set up on that customization field, on that customization setup screen. So that's kind of why I started with the customization tab for today's training, because all of your custom fields in this custom tab setup are going to pull from that customization tab setup screen. So for example, if I wanted to add county to my customer information listing, all I need to do is select it, and just like the other options, I'm just going to pick where I want it to show up. So I'll make this one column number 3, and I'll make it row number 1. Some other options that you have here are going to be label color. If you need to change the font of, the color of the text of your field, font color, which will actually change the font color of the information in that field, and then you have background color, which will, change the background to make something a little bit easier to see. So for example, if I wanted something to, be highlighted yellow, because I'm saying that this is really an important field that we need selected, I can go ahead and select that. I can hit OK, and now I can save. And if I exit, you'll see it will go ahead and update my information for me. And yeah, so really that's all there is to it. One more thing I want to show you with this, and something that's pretty nice about this, is if it's an existing field, it will kind of automatically pull your the formatting. So for example, with these phone number fields that I pulled from my existing field, you'll see they're kind of formatted, with the appropriate spaces for a phone number. But you're not just limited to fields. You can actually also bring in checkboxes that would be normally just exclusive to your default tabs that are already set up in the system. So, for example, from my lead info tab, my show as prospect checkbox, for example, if I wanted to, I could go back to my add modify custom screen setup. I'll go ahead and select my tab, and I'll go ahead and add another tab and, another field to this, and it should be just under show as prospect. So even though this is a field, it's actually going to generate my checkbox that we were just looking at on that lead info tab. And if I change my label color to yellow here, I can go ahead and, oh, yep, I also got to go ahead and pick which column and row I want this to show up on. So I'll make this its own column, and I'll make it the first option on that column. So if I go ahead and save now, and I believe it's yelling at me because it doesn't like this label color. So that's something to watch out for, is label colors on fields that aren't actually a field. If it's a checkbox or something, make sure that you don't add something, add a color in there. So we'll go ahead and add it one more time here. Show as prospect. And again, I'm going to make this row 4, column 1. And that should be all there is to it at this point. Yeah, that might have been a bad example as a field, but oh no, there we go. It just took a second to refresh there. But there it is, show as prospect. So you see, it's not just fields that you're able to add into this. It's actually going to be anything that you see on these tabs, including checkboxes and the like. So that is how you're able to set up your tab. It is going to be through, again, edit, and then add, modify, custom screen. And then you either need to create the tab, or you can select the tab and start editing it from there. And that's basically going to be the information. So just want to point out, these are going to be individual tabs. So I have a custom tab test, for example, that has some additional information on it. So I can look at that one as well. And you can kind of see the layout that you're able to set up as well. And here's my customer information listing one that we just created as well. So a couple options to set this up. The final thing I kind of want to cover in this webinar is how are you actually able to make these tabs viewable for your employees. So what you're going to do, and just a quick disclaimer that this does require that you have access to the security module. But if you do have access to the security management module, I can go ahead and I'm just going to select our admin account. But on any user that you would want to see these tabs, or if it was a user group, alternatively, you're going to go to permissions, and then you're going to go to CRM. And it's actually going to be its own permission that generates, and there's going to be 2 permissions that generate for each tab that you create. The first one is going to be allowed to view custom tab, and then the rest of the information will actually give you the name of that custom tab. So whatever description you created for that tab. And then you're also going to have one that is allowed to modify that tab. So you can pick if you want people just to have read-only access to that tab, or if you want them to be able to modify the information that's on there. Really, that's all there is to it. So if I was to check these off at this point, my I'll go ahead and select the customer information listing ones. So at this point, my admin user would be able to view and modify this customer information listing tab. But really, that's all there is to it. Just to quickly recap, we covered the customization tab and how that works, and how we're able to create custom fields and custom responses that we can restrict our users to selecting on this tab. And we also covered how to create custom tabs using edit, and it's going to be under our add, modify, custom screen option here on our edit menu to actually access and create these. And again, you have the option to either use your fields that already exist on your other tabs, or you can pull additional custom fields out of your customization tab. So like I said, we will be posting this on our website later if anyone wants to review this webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to message our support team at support@motilitysoftware.com. Or alternatively, if you wanted to schedule some training, if you wanted to do a deeper dive into this custom tab in the customization tab, go ahead and feel free to contact us at training@motilitysoftware.com. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time today. Thanks, and have a good rest of your day.